And I was sitting at this bar in fucking like New York, and I don't know where we were, like East Village or something, and they threw on the audio because it was a Sharks bar, and I was for sure the only Sharks fan in there. People were getting pissed. They were like, "Why is the music off?" I'm like, "The fucking Sharks game's on." So that was fun, and people were happy once the game was finally over. So I gained fans through that.
Did you buy everyone a shot at the bar because the Sharks won?
Absolutely not. I can no longer afford to do that.
All right, this is going to be episode number 4 of Tank Talk, show where we talk about the San Jose Sharks, break down, some of the interesting things that have happened over the past week since we had our last podcast, review the games, the win streak that we went on, talk about some interesting topics, maybe some controversy coming up with the Sharks, go over some fan sentiments, lots of things to talk about, and then preview the next games coming up for the next week. I'm Lucas, as always, joined by my constant co-host, Jeff. How you been?
Yeah, I've been good. It's been a long week. I'm really tired, but Sharks made it a little easier to get through it.
Yeah, definitely. Finally, maybe not have an hour-long episode where we just spend the entire time shitting on the Sharks, which is, good. We wanted to see him step up, and we couldn't have asked for, obviously it could be better, but we couldn't have asked for a better record, 5-0 since our last podcast.
Yep.
Let's go.
Pretty sure Timo watched the last one. I'm pretty sure. So he's like, it's these fucking guys. Like, all right, Timo, fucking step her up.
Yeah. So let's break down some of the interesting topics that have happened in the last couple of weeks. First thing that came out, actually the day that we recorded the last podcast, Kane's $500,000 fine from the Cosmopolitan. I'll kind of break this down into, I'm sure everyone's already seen this, but this came from, obviously in Vegas, came during the playoff games where they were in Vegas last year. And yeah, you want to give your thoughts on this? I was honestly shocked that this came out, but I'll let you talk about it for a little bit, and then I'll say my piece.
I just think it's like so funny. Like that's such a Kane thing to happen. Like especially during the play. I heard he was like out with the boys too. So I'm wondering which boys it was. It was probably some fucking like Timo and LeBanc. Because if it was Thornton or someone else, they would have said something like, "Hey, Kaner, maybe you shouldn't take out $500 loan from the casino while we're in the playoffs." But regardless, he did it, and it's very Kane like. And I don't know why he didn't pay it off because he's got the money for it. So,
yeah, he's definitely not short of cash. I'm just like, I don't know. How do you feel about the fact that this happened during the playoff series? You don't fucking do this. You don't put all that money out there when you're sober, right? Like this guy.
No. Okay, well, you know what? Actually, I could see Kaner doing it while he's sober. Like he lives in Vegas, I think, during the off season, or maybe he used to.
Yeah.
And he I don't know. I could actually see him doing it sober. If it was like LeBanc or some shit, that sounds like a drunk mistake. But Kaner sounds like a professional. Like he'd fucking go do the World Series of Poker or some shit.
Yeah, I think it's just crazy. Like it's one thing to be like coming out during first round of the playoffs, and it's like, all right, that's kind of sketch. Like, why the fuck are you doing that? I thought, it's probably drunk or something, but you definitely bring up a good point that honestly, Kaner, maybe not. But yeah, I don't understand how this gets into the eyes of the public. Like, what? How much do you have to like go through to not pay that off? To the point where like ESPN's writing an article about it. Like, there's just a lot of hoops that have to be jumped through. Like, how can Kane not like adjust this himself or pay this off himself before there's an ESPN article written about it? Like, who the fuck? Like, is he just getting these calls from like the Cosmopolitan and just like, yeah, I'm not gonna pay this, and just hanging up until it's like made like a public problem and like ESPN's writing an article about it. Like, what the fuck? I don't understand how this happens.
I agree. Well, and it got first reported by Vegas, like I forget what their local news, like the Vegas Journal or whatever the hell their local like news is. But yeah, I agree. I really don't understand how it wasn't paid off before it like came to light, or why Kaner wasn't concerned about it. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's weird, but it's also very Kaner like. I'm not like super concerned about it, just because at this point, like now I've gotten used to Kaner and like his off ice shit, and it doesn't seem to affect his play much. So as long as it doesn't infect the other players too, like hopefully no one else is going out and fucking aborting babies and losing a shit ton of money. But I mean, as long as Kane's still scoring fucking 15 goals, like I'm good.
Yeah, you think maybe someone else lost a bunch of money with him, but they paid that off or something. Maybe the whole team lost a bunch of money. But
I feel like the rest of them aren't that stupid. But I mean, who knows? Honestly, they could have been somebody else joined them, but I don't know.
Yeah, forgot to mention this at the very beginning, but we have a new overlay for our show. Yeah, you can find us on Spotify and Apple Podcast and a bunch of other random.
Did we get into Apple Podcasts?
Yeah, they actually accepted us. That's the craziest thing, but
that's fun.
But yeah, just thought I'd mention that before I forgot again. Moving on to the next topic, something that probably like everyone already knows about, Don Cherry being fired, saying some pretty controversial stuff regarding Canada's Remembrance Day, in regards to the poppy that everyone wears they just pin it on their shirts. But he refers to immigrants as "you people," gets fired, and I want to make this as non-political as possible, Jeff. Not very non-political.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. What do you think? Is this a good or a bad thing over? Like, obviously, what he said was bad. He got fired for it. Yeah. But like him getting fired, let's just look at that in like a vacuum. Is this good or bad for the league?
I think it's bad. I think it's bad for hockey. Like, rather than, because it was bad in the first place that he said. The biggest thing was that "you people." Like, if you look at his whole statement, he like makes a really valid point that anyone from like could fairly make a point about that. But once you say the term "you people," there's really no getting out of that being the good guy. Like, that's not acceptable. You can't do that.
Yeah.
I think that Sportsnet, was it Sportsnet or CBC that he?
It was Sportsnet.
Okay, well, I mean, he's off CBC obviously too for Hockey Night, but like I think they reacted a little bit, quickly. But Canada's much more progressive and for, I guess, I don't know, forward than America is with that kind of stuff. So I felt bad for Ron McLean too, who had to fucking basically, like, in order to keep his job, he had to rake his old buddy over the coals, and that kind of sucked. And he's obviously awesome too, but I don't know. Like, I don't think that it's something that should have gotten him fired. And I also heard too on Spit and Chicklets, they brought up some audio from some Canadian lady. I don't know if you heard this. I think it was on the Thursday episode. And there was some lady on some talk show in Canada who was like talking about how all hockey players were always the same when she was growing up, and they were normally the bullies and they were the mean kids. And like that's just how she was like, that's how the hockey players are. Like, they have a bad. It's always, she was like, it's always the white kids who can afford to play hockey that are like always ripping on other people. And I was like, oh my god, like what the hell? Like, this is literally what Don Cherry just got fired for, and this chick is now saying it, but it's acceptable because she's talking about white people. And it was just like, okay, like there's got to be at some point where we can draw the line and say, yeah, you're right, Don Cherry's comments weren't acceptable, but neither is this crap. Like, you can't then turn it on the other side and say all hockey players are now bad. Just like as a look inside of like how Canadian media has been treating this. And yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, obviously Don Cherry is like a very outspoken and popular opinion. So, when those that have a lot of following and are like in a position that Don Cherry's in, if they like slip up, it's obviously way worse, and they have to be like a lot more respectful with what they say. But yeah, it's a little weird too because, you know, Don Cherry said a bunch of controversial stuff in the past. Like
All
there
the
was
time,
times,
yeah.
yeah, there was times when the NHL was seeing a lot of like Russians and Europeans coming over in the league. He literally had like a statement when he was like bashing on teams that were picking these people up and saying that they're taking jobs away from Canadians. Like these
Which
Russians
is like just
and
a
Europeans.
stupid comment, but it's just like it's funny though. Like it's like I don't know. That's like just Don Cherry. Like he'd always talk about how Euro players are pussies and shit. And like I don't know. I thought it was funny. Like just some funny Canadian nationalism.
Yeah, I don't know. I see it like it. You know, just looking at like whether or not it's good or bad for the game that he left, I just think it's kind of sad that he left the way that he did. Obviously, he's a very iconic figure and been like a part of the league for a really long time. Sure, his like thoughts about the league, I feel like were probably a little outdated, but you know, it's sad to see him go. And like a lot of people that didn't follow hockey knew about Don Cherry, and like he was kind of an iconic figure for the NHL. So it sucks that this is like how he goes for sure. But yeah, that's kind of all I had to say about the Don Cherry thing.
Yeah, I don't have much more on it. I mean, I think it's a bigger Canadian thing to discuss. And, you know, I'm from Southern California. You're from Northern California. Like, we can give our perspective, but we're not as in tune, I guess.
Yeah. And then another interesting topic before we review all the games that have happened is Šimek returns, our savior. And the Sharks have been 5-0 with Šimek. Jeff, I know you have a lot of thoughts on Šimek, so let's hear it.
I fucking love him, dude. And I was saying that before. I think I mentioned on the last podcast a bunch. He is a fucking defensive beast, and he showed that too. And I think it's rare too that you're able to tell with a defenseman, like, oh, this guy's clearly, like with Vlasic, not this year, but with Vlasic in the past, you've been able to tell, like, oh, clearly he's a fucking like defense, like he knows how to play fucking D, and Šimek knows how to fucking play D, and he's also not an offensive liability. So yeah, I thought he played great. The only game I didn't think he played great was last night against the Ducks, and obviously that didn't matter as too much because we still ended up winning the game. So
yeah, I can't wait till you get a Šimek jersey. I know you've been telling me that you want to do that.
I'm already on these Chinese websites looking to get my $30 Šimek jersey.
Yeah, Šimek's dude. He's awesome, and I just think like it's not even that he's such a he's a great player. Don't get me wrong, but it's not even that he's just like a really good player. It's just he like fits so well with the team and like what the team needs and slots into the defensive pairing and just makes it like so much better. Like without Šimek, like who do you have with Burns that goes well? Like you put fucking Vlasic with Burns. They've never really gotten it figured out in the years that Burns have been here. Dylan, yeah, EK, no, yeah, I don't really like that as much. Like at least now you can kind of try to work with Vlasic and EK together. You can give Burns back Šimek, and then, you know, when Ferraro's healthy, you can put, like, Ferraro back with fucking Heed or Prout. I don't know.
I'd be good with Ferraro and Dylan.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Fuck, I was confusing myself. You have, like, Ferraro and Dylan as a third pair. You know, having your 50 man be Dylan, that's not, like, the worst thing in the world, honestly. But yeah, I think Dylan honestly has been playing, like has had a pretty solid show as a defenseman this year while fucking Carlson was shit in the bed. But yeah, I think Šimek just really rounds out the D very well there. But yeah, anything else you have to say about Šimek?
No, I'm sure we'll bring him up though. Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll go into our first game. So 5-0 record in the last 5. Beautiful. Our first game was against the Chicago Blackhawks. Sharks won 4-2. Outshot the Blackhawks 32-21. We had a goal from Marlowe, Kane, Hurdle, and then Timo getting one in the empty net at the end of the game. I don't know, you want to talk about what your thoughts were watching this game?
Yeah, I mean, we said coming into these games on the last podcast that we knew that they had to turn this game and the Wild game into games to lead into the more important Predators and I mean, all the games have the same importance because they're all 2 fucking points. But I mean, in the sense of competitiveness, the Blackhawks and the Wild should have been, much easier games. And I remember it like the Blackhawks and the Wild game mirrored each other a lot because we fucking dominated the whole game. But then at the end, things started to fall apart, and I started to see the Sharks of the first 15 games or whatever it was. But luckily, both of the games we skipped out of there. But I was definitely fucking nervous at the end.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of shit we need to stop.
This is like a preview of the Minnesota game, pretty much. Is like, our lead isn't as big and we don't blow it as bad. But yeah, kind of same situation where, we look pretty good in the first 2 periods. You can't play a 60-minute game, though. It was nice to see Marleau score. Like, every time Marleau scores, I'm just, like, pumped. I fucking love when that happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, we talked about, like, how these games are really important for the Sharks. Like, if they don't pick these wins up and then they go into harder games, like, even with all the parity in the league, like, I think these 2 games are the most important. Like, if the Sharks lost to Chicago, Minnesota after their terrible, like, last stretch of games before they went on this run, I think Doug would have made something happen. I think, like, honestly, these 2 games were way more important than what a lot of people thought. And, like, yeah, Doug would have probably, like, fired someone or switched something up.
Which is upsetting that they were more important, but you're right. They were.
Yeah. And we'll talk more about, like, how important that was in the Minnesota game. I don't know. Do you have anything else to say about the Sharks or the Chicago game?
No, I mean, other than I'm looking at the blocked shots here, and there were only 7 guys with even a blocked shot, and 6 of them had 1 blocked shot. One guy had 4 blocked shots, and it was fucking Shimmick, who was in his first game back, and he's just throwing his body. Like, I love that. That's just another fucking exclamation point on Shimmick.
Yeah, I guess it was really good. I guess we can talk a little bit more about, like, because we previewed this game last time and we were, like, hyped about Shimmick returning. Guy literally plays a couple AHL games after finally getting back on the ice, then gets thrown in the shit show that was the Sharks, and has a really solid performance, plays a lot of time. Do you have his time on ice stat for that game?
Yeah, he played 20:37, only 20 seconds less than EK did.
And that's fucking crazy. For someone who is literally, like, entry-level contract, that's fucking awesome. And he just
fresh coming back. Yeah. He played almost 2 minutes more than Vlasic.
Yeah, he comes in, he's playing more than, like, one of our veteran defensemen, and is just, like, putting out a solid performance. Like, he played very well that game, and it was really good to see.
Yeah.
All right, going into the Sharks versus the Minnesota game, we got the Sharks out shooting Minnesota 31-26. The Sharks winning 6-5 in a nail biter. That didn't need to be a nail biter, but it was. The goals that were scored were by Couture, Timo, Sorensen, Shimmick, Hurdle, and Kaner. We are 2 for 4 on the power play. My thoughts are we still can't play a 60-minute game. To this point, we had not seen we have not seen the Sharks play a 60-minute game, and it was obvious. I wish that game ended in the second period. I'm sure a lot of people turned off their TVs at the end of the second period because it looked like this game was over. But, it was a really good game for the offense. If I just look at that in a vacuum, I would say that, this was probably a pretty important game for the offense. We had a lot of people that just weren't contributing to any goals.
Yep.
And those people stepped up. These are all the people that, were under a magnifying glass. It came our last episode, and those were like Couture and Timo and Sorensen and Hurdle.
Yeah.
Like, the only people that were putting the puck in the net was Kane. And, like, all these guys, we were saying, like, where are these guys? Like, Sorensen needs to step up now that Pavelski's gone. Couture's a captain, needs to step up. Timo's, all these guys need to step up. That's what we were saying. And, they all managed in the same game to get off the schneid. So I feel like that was pretty important. Shimmick's goal. That was fucking awesome to see. No one ever expects Shimmick. I just feel like you shouldn't expect Shimmick to score.
No. That's not why he's there.
Because of the role that he plays. But yeah, it was funny. Like, it was an insane goal. That tic-tac-toe play where Shimmick essentially just shot it, and in the middle of the net, and it still goes in.
He just ripped like any defenseman who doesn't shoot.
Yeah, it's like no aiming, shot in the middle of the net, but our like goalie was just so out of like it was a 4-on-1, I'm pretty sure. And
it was Stalock. Did he score? Did he get it on Stalock or did he get it on Dubnik? He got it on Stalock, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it was before the goalies were switched out.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So yeah, that was kind of fun to see. Like I said, Šimik scoring is always fun, and then Minnesota kind of gooning it out a little bit. They had some dirty hits from Dumba on Ferraro, where
they're not a good team. They were not a good hockey team.
But then Dylan Gambrell of all people had to step up for for Ferraro. I almost said Ray Ferraro. Mario Ferraro. And then the two-handed slash on Kane that resulted in a game misconduct.
Yeah.
And then just like Greenway and Hartman, those guys. It was fun.
Brendan Dillon, one thing that I just noticed, Brendan Dillon played almost 14 minutes. He was a -4. That's pretty fucking insane considering it was 6-5. Like, geez, man. Holy fuck. And Vlasic then, on this night, he played about almost 3 minutes more than Šimik. He was a +3 with no points. So, nice positive for a guy we don't really hear much from.
Anymore, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Jones, kind of a rough game, I thought, in my opinion. He
let
in some softies, and then he had to come up fucking huge at the end. It was a big save at the end of the game, but it's like you didn't have to do that.
You shouldn't even have to be in that position. Yeah, exactly.
And it sucks because this made me, like, at the end of these two games, I felt no better about the Sharks than when I was like, great, we got 2 wins. We needed that. I don't feel any better.
We barely fucking survived. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's something like we couldn't play a whole 60 minutes, and we're just like back to trying to outscore our problems, not being shut down defensively and letting in weak shots from Joner. But just looking at the game in its entirety, I still think that it was like super important because think about losing that game. Think about if the Sharks were up. They were up 6-1 at one point. Think about if you lose the game. That would have been so detrimental.
6-2, I think. I think 6-2.
Oh, 6-2.
Yeah,
it would have been so detrimental for Jones and everybody else.
Oh, that would have been
think about Joner. Oh, my God. Think about where he is now and, kind of the highs that he might be on now versus, if we lost to Minnesota, that could have been – we might have been starting – Dell against the Predators. We might have
thinking about bringing up Cornar.
Oh God!
Honestly,
did you see the score? The last Barracuda game, it was fucking 9-2. The Barracuda
lost.
Or
the other team?
No, Cornar got fucking destroyed.
Did they play the goals?
The goals.
If they actually did,
I think they did actually. Yeah.
Oh, then I'm kind of happy about it. Go Goals.
Oh my God! Yeah. But yeah, so I think that it was just huge that it sucked that what we did was really fucking stupid, and it was we're like, here we fucking go again. And this is Sharks just blowing a lead, but super important to close that one out. Really important.
And we did. So, but again, it was like, all right, well, we survived.
Yeah. And then moving on to the Shark. Do you have anything else?
Nah, nothing. I got nothing more on that one.
All right, moving on to the Sharks versus the Predators. Sharks win 2-1. Outshooting the Predators 32-25. Goals from only Hurdle and Timo in the shootout in the 7th round. Obviously, this was the only game where we only let in 1 goal. So I think as a defensive effort, our most solid game. Yeah,
for sure.
And it makes me, I talked about the last game first, so I'll let you say your thoughts before I'll.
I mean, my biggest, I guess I'll do the negative first, was I think Joner's stats looked good this game, but it's still worrisome to me because he didn't look terrific. He looks nervous. I don't know if he's got something going on personally, or if he's fucking taking some new antidepressants or something, but he just looks he looks shaky, like something's up.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that it's not permanent, but I've seen nothing to show that it isn't permanent because it's been fucking like 2 seasons now. I mean, this is now coming in season 3, and it's kind of hitting its peak of badness. And granted, that was his best game out of the 5, but again, he didn't pass the eye test in my opinion. In the shootout, he did, but honestly, that was one of the worst shootouts I've ever seen in my entire fucking life.
Yeah.
Like that was such a boring shootout. And I was sitting at this bar in fucking like New York, and I don't know where we were, like East Village or something, and they threw on the audio because it was a Sharks bar, and I was for sure the only Sharks fan in there. People were getting pissed. They were like, "Why is the music off?" I'm like, "The fucking Sharks game's on." So that was fun, and people were happy once the game was finally over. So I gained fans through that.
Did you buy everyone a shot at the bar because the Sharks won?
Absolutely not. I can no longer afford to do that.
Yeah, I don't know. My thoughts on this game are, like, I don't want to be too nitpicky on Karlsson because we spent a lot of time talking about Karlsson all the time, but he deserves it because he's the highest paid defenseman in the NHL. Whatever.
Yep.
It just seems like he gets fucking walked by everybody. Like, yeah, I know this guy's not, like, everyone will say he's not known for his defensive prowess. He never was, but like, what the fuck, man? This guy,
you gotta be somewhat defensive. Like,
he's a big body, and he's one of, like, people talk about how great he is skating, his speed, his turns.
He's athletic
like,
as fuck.
Yeah, and he just gets fucking walked by everybody. Like the one goal that was scored, I forgot who's the person who scored it on the Predators.
On the Preds?
Yeah.
Philip Forsberg.
Yeah. He just gets completely fucking dangled by Forsberg.
Yeah, who's got some dirty dangles, but
Yeah.
still, like fuck off, man.
Typical Sharks, probably going on another highlight reel, but not the ones that are scoring the goal. I just feel like that happens way too much.
Another NHL commercial where we could see somebody get their fucking job strap.
Oh, remember that during our fucking playoff run where like they were doing the hype NHL commercials, and it was always like fucking Joner getting.
Oh yeah,
it was like we were so pissed every time that commercial came on. We're like, what the fuck?
I think it was Hugo was like, Jeff, isn't that a shark? And I was like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, but the other thing I want to talk about is how weird our PP2 looks sometimes, and like it's strange because you know a lot of teams, what they do is if they have an umbrella power play, they'll set up like one guy on top that's like a main passer, and then they have two people on their offhand that are going to take slap shots or one-timers up by like the top of the circle. And like our choice for PP2, and it's not always this way, but I've noticed this like in a couple games is we'll throw Thornton and Gambrell out there for power play 2 to take like those shots. And like, yeah, I get it. You want to put Thornton on the power play. Like he's a great passer, but you know, he's not much of a shooting threat, and you're losing like a whole dimension of your power play if you put. You
gotta throw him in front or behind the net. Like that's what
I think he has to go behind the net or just not be on the power play at all. Like you can't have him be on the point position because he can't be the last guy back. He's way too fucking slow.
Good God.
Yeah, that would be awful. And you can't have him on the side because you're just gonna lose the threat of shooting. And I know he's like, you know, maybe doesn't want to feel like he's a one-dimensional player and has to pass, so he'll like try a shoot, but it's not like a threatening shot, and he just doesn't have that shot. But
yeah, and he's such a big body. Like, I mean, he can go behind the net, and that's where he can do his fucking wheeling and dealing with his passing. He uses a big body, and then we get the puck up top. He can fucking stand in front of the goalie and just be a massive fucking pile on that. Just, you know, like goalie can't see over that fuck.
Yeah.
So I agree. They need to figure out how to use him better on the power play if they are going to use him at all.
Yeah, I feel like if you want to use him on PP2, just don't do like an umbrella kind of setup. Like you can overload. You can put like 2-3 forwards, like in around like one side and work around one side instead of trying to do this like an umbrella style where you look for like these one-timers to like the people at the top of the circle. Like work around Joe Thornton if you want to put him there where he has more options to pass to, and he's not necessarily the guy that's the shooting threat. Yeah. But yeah, just just something that I like thought was weird. I noticed it in a couple games, and I was like, why is Thornton and Gambrell like the two people we have in our points in power play too? It's kind of weird, but
Yeah. No, I agree.
yeah. And then like I just think like there are too many times where the Sharks are just trying to be too cute in these games. And like they're one of the we'll talk about like stats later, but they're one of the teams with like the lowest amount of shots that they put on net every single game.
Mm-hmm. What was the shot count in this one?
Yeah, this one wasn't that bad. 32 to 25.
32. Okay.
30s solid shot count, I feel like, but there's still like a lot of opportunities. Like I can't remember if it was this game or if it was last game or what game? I can't remember. But like basically Erik Karlsson was like on a 2-on-1. He gets the puck passed to him. And he's basically on a breakaway, and he like slows down and tries to pass to Couture through a defenseman when he has like an open lane to go. And I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Like,
yeah,
we need to just shoot more. Our D are just stick checking too much. Like, I don't know.
I saw that a lot last night.
Yeah, this was a great game. I think overall this was like one that we were both really happy with, and it was really big. So I don't want to be too nitpicky, but we just like. We need to be like a harder team, I feel like. We're not hard enough to play against.
I agree.
But yeah, and then just talking about the shootout before we move on to the next game, I think this was like a really big boost of confidence for Joner. Like regardless of if you say it's like the shootout was ugly.
No, I agree.
Yeah, so it's a big boost of confidence.
I thought my criticism of Joner was purely the regulation. I didn't. The shootout, that's all. The shootout for goalies is a whole nother fucking story. Like you can
the shootout in general is a whole nother story.
Yeah, exactly. You could have a tendy who's filthy in a shootout, but he sucks in regulation, and vice versa. So that it's a totally different thing. But it's still for him in his psyche, it's definitely a confidence booster.
Yeah,
or at least it should be.
Then EK hitting the post on the shootout, I thought was so funny.
Yeah,
dude. Like I hate when I think that's just like. So typical of Karlsson is just like, looks like he's gonna score, almost scores, doesn't score, gets fucking pissed off, slams his stick. I'm just like,
yeah,
fuck. And then we all like did the same move too, and we're like getting so deep. We have fucking Burns going out, and everyone like LeBanc, Hertl, Kane, and Burns all did this move where they come in on their forehand, they try to go to their backhand, it didn't work, and it's like by the fourth time, like just fucking try something different, like anything.
Yeah.
But
Saros is good too. Credits Saros, but yeah, I agree.
So weird, but this tallied our 41th straight win where we let in 2 goals or fewer. The thing that Brody always talks about, 2 or fewer. Sharks are 41-0 when they let in 2 goals or less. I think that's a great stat that.
Too bad it rarely fucking happens.
It's like the first game where we let in 2 or fewer, I'm pretty sure, the fucking whole season or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's let's go into the Oilers versus the Sharks. Sharks won 6-3, outshot the Oilers 25-24. Goals by Burns, Kane, Marlowe, Gaudreau, Hertl, and then Timo at the end. No power play goals.
We outshot in all of these games, I think, right? All 5 of these wins
all
we
5
outshot.
we outshot.
Look at that.
I know. What did we say last time? We said this is a common theme. We keep getting outshot. We got to put more pucks on the net.
And then we fucking do it and we start winning.
5 in a row, yeah. But, all these goals came on 5-on-5, I'm pretty sure. Oh, wait, no. Was there a shorthanded goal? Kane's shorthanded goal was last time.
No, did we? Did we have a short? No, we had a shorty last night, but I don't think we had one in this game.
Yeah, Gaudreau gets the Gordie Howe hat trick.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even notice that. Fucking rights, buddy.
Yeah, that was... I don't know. This game was good to see. Almost kept our 2 or fewer, but we still won.
This game, again, though, showed the same... I think it showed the same, not nearly as bad as the Wild game or the Blackhawks game, but it had the same symptom of kind of sloppy at the end.
Yeah, now full 60 minutes. Definitely letting it go a little bit. I don't know. I don't really have much to say about this one.
No, I mean I was pleased with this game, and I think it was. I think this game was a consequence of the other 3, basically. Like we fucking finally got our shit together and started playing. And I don't know. Again, having Shimmick back and finally having we did have Tim Heat in because Ferraro got hurt.
Yeah, I guess we can talk about
in the Wild game.
Yeah, he played.
He was
finally,
a plus too.
Finally played more than 3 minutes in one game, and he actually looked pretty fucking good. And
like I didn't notice him, so that that was really a good fucking start.
Didn't he get an assist? Pretty sure he got an assist.
Yeah, he had an assist, and he was a plus too, so he's on the ice for another one.
Yeah.
And Carlson had 3 assists.
I like that. I like when he performs well. I like when he gets a little more ice time and he looks good because I just fucking feel for the guy. Like only playing 3 minutes a game or just constantly being scratched. Like it sucks, but yeah.
He's kind of a cone, so
it would be nice to see him develop, and one thing I want to say about Heed is it would be nice if he like really picks it up because I think everyone's been really impressed with Ferraro, but he's young and you can't expect someone to play 82 games really hard when they're that young,
Yeah,
it would
and
be
he's
nice.
Getting banged up.
Yeah, it would be nice to make like Ferraro have to work for his job a little bit, or just like have DeBoer be able to use. Have
some flex. Sorry, I had to plug in my charger. have some flexibility defensively.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it was good to see Heed. You want to talk about the Sharks and the Ducks?
Yeah.
Right. Sharks and the Ducks winning 5-3, outshooting the Ducks 35-32 from goals, 2 from Hurdle, 1 from Burns, 1 from Kane, and 1 from Couture.
Burnsies was a fucking snipe. Did you see Burnsies?
Yeah,
dude,
2 games in a row.
That one was a fucking beauty. So like Prout was the first kind of exclamation point I saw in the game, that fight. And also his interview with Bakes at intermission. I don't know. I hadn't heard Prout talk much before that, but that interview made me like him. He just seemed like a fucking, I don't know, a total bro. Like he's like, yeah, like he was going after, I forget who he was going after. Who was Delorier trying to fucking hit last night?
I don't fucking know.
Yeah, he was going after somebody for like a second hit in a row. Prout was like, yeah, I fucking saw him going after him. Like, he didn't say fucking, but you know what I mean. And he was like, I'm not letting this happen, so I just went over there and started fucking going at him or whatever. And I don't know. I like Prout, and I haven't seen him be too much of a defensive liability. I'm sure there's some Blue Jackets fans who out there will tell me that he is, but I haven't seen much of that yet, so he could be a nice, I don't know, option on defense.
I don't know. I think the opposite. I actually don't like. It's not that I thought he was a liability last game. It's that I don't know why we're picking him up. Like, I understand the sentiment that Doug Wilson's going for and like wanting these like tougher players for when we're playing physical teams, but it just makes me think of a Roman Polak situation. And that's what
but he's not. I don't think he's nearly as bad as Roman Polak was defense. Well,
yeah, I don't know.
I haven't seen him playing. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen him playing.
He got a concussion.
Yeah.
That's to be determined. But yeah, Heed comes off having a good game, and I honestly wanted to see Heed play again. But
yeah, well, you will.
I'm not sold on Prout, and I'm not sure just like how much we need. Like I understand the sentiment, and like he's probably gonna play in the Vegas game too. But yeah, I don't know.
Well, he only played he played under 10 minutes, so
yeah. Yeah, another sketchy thing that happened late in that game is Hurdle ends up leaving the game. His right knee kind of buckled in. I forgot who kind of bounced off of him, but
it made me nervous just purely because of the fact that it wasn't that, like, there wasn't really a hit. He kind of just got bumped.
Yeah.
Like, it almost looked like one of those non-contact football injuries you saw, like, Teddy Bridgewater get or some shit where they tear their ACL, and I was like, holy fuck.
Yeah, it was it was, and I saw the video, his knee just kind of buckled a little bit, and he went down. I mean, he still skated back. There were reports that he didn't walk to the bus with crutches or anything like that, and he left the game strictly like precautionary measures just because of his problems that he's had in the past. But it's definitely a little scary, especially with the run that Hurdle's been on. Mercury News reported that he's day-to-day now. So I don't know. I think it would suck to not see him in the Red Wings game just because he's been such a big catalyst for this team in these wins. And yeah.
I'd rather play it safe, though, especially we're playing the Red Wings. I'd much rather, if there's any doubt in anyone's mind, just let them take a game off. Yeah. But obviously, if there's no need for that, then, throw them in.
And then probably Shimmick's worst game against the Ducks.
Yeah.
Getting some unlucky bounces. 2 of the goals. One, he tried to dump it, clear the zone, and it hit off the ref, and then went right to the Ducks, and they scored on that turnover. The other one, another kind of turnover, and then a shot hits off Shimmick's stick and goes in.
Which Jones is not innocent on that goal, I think. That's a goal I think a lot of players would be like, see that and be like, oh, well, it got completely redirected. Jones thought it was going. That he's not innocent on Jones. Like, that's at a certain point you got to be like with Jones. You got to be like, dude, come on. Like, yeah, you're right. You're not like that's unlucky. That's an unlucky bounce. But it went right through your 5-hole. Like, cover your fucking body up. Like, don't let anything through you.
Yeah,
I don't know. That one to me wasn't like I'm mad at Jones, but I think it was kind of that. It's that sentence after the shitty stuff where you're like, okay, really? Like, come on, man. Like, do something to make me happy. Like,
Yeah. When I was watching it originally, I didn't realize that it hit off Shimmick's stick, and I just saw 5-hole, and I was like, all right, here we fucking go again. Like, here's Jones letting in 5-hole goals. But, I want to give him the benefit of the doubt, considering that it went off of Shimmick's stick, and it's an awkward redirection, makes it harder, but yeah. So those were the 5 games. I feel like we were pretty positive. We weren't shitting on them too much.
Absolutely. Hey, offensively, that looked like the best team in the NHL.
Yeah, definitely. We scoring like an average of 5 to 6 goals a game, minus the Predators game. Pretty fucking good. But take a look back at our fun stats that we talked about last episode. We had really not changing that much in the 5 games, but don't expect to move all that much. But we're still 30th in goals against, so we actually moved up. We were 29th.
Who's 31st?
I don't know. I didn't take that information down.
The fucking Flyers? No, they got Carter Hart. I don't know. I'm gonna look it up. I'm curious.
And then we're 30th in scoring chances allowed, last in high danger chances still, or high danger chances allowed still. I think
30th is the fucking Red Wings. This game's about to be
31st?
10-8. Yeah, or 31st, yeah. So that's great. They have allowed 8 more goals than we have, though, so they're really bad.
Yeah, they're bad.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
But we'll talk about that in a sec.
And then, we're the highest team. Interesting stat. We're the highest team in penalty minutes for and against. So we have the most opportunities on the power play, but we have the most opportunities on the penalty kill as well. PP is still average. Our penalty kill is the best in the league at a 90%, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, still shocking to me.
Last week we looked at, and I know plus minus is not the best stat, but we looked at Brent Burns and Carlson's plus minus. So last week was Erik Karlsson was a minus 13. He's now a minus 5. So that's pretty fucking good. Yeah. And then Brent Burns is minus 12. He moves down to a minus 14. Not really.
He's also on the ice for half the game too. So
yeah. So yeah, you're gonna get more plus minus than that. And then we're still, we're moving up. We're now 24th in shots per game from where we were before. I don't remember, but wasn't that good.
It was like 29th or something, I think. Yeah.
So, interesting to look at those. Even though we went 5-0, there's still a lot of interesting things to look at in terms of stats that, we're still allowing a lot of things and we're not like fixing a lot of stuff up, like the penalty minutes, and, we're not fixing up a lot of the problems with allowing these chances. But yeah.
Yeah.
Going into some more topics, we specifically called out some players last game that we said need to step up for the Sharks to do well. Those players were Meyer, Hurdle, Couture, and Burns, and those guys all did step up. It needed to happen, and now they're all firing on all cylinders. And it's like, obviously hockey is a game where players get on streaks and they go on different runs, and sometimes you have a 5-game goal streak and then you're quiet the next like 6 or 7 games, and that's just what happens. But it sucked, and what really hurt us a lot were all these players were quiet at this, and now they're kind of all going at the same time.
Yeah.
Are you worried for when
they got to keep it up though?
At least if you're not all going to keep it up, at least like maybe some, they just get off being on the same streak. So it's not that we have a bunch of games where we score like 0 to 1 goals and then like a bunch of games where we score 6, hopefully kind of balance out the streakiness of this team, play a little more consistently.
Yeah.
I don't know, anything to talk about for those players specifically?
I thought Timo, out of those guys, Timo and Tomasz were the two that I was like, all right, fine. Because Timo, I was really pissed about. I think before this, he was like fucking.
He had like 2 goals or something like that.
I was gonna say 2 goals and like 4 assists or something. It was terrible. Like for Timo too, a guy that I was thinking, and probably you two were like, I was thinking he's gonna be like our next fucking guy. Yeah. And I mean, he's still not to that point yet. He's got 13 points in 20 games, but I mean, now he's at the point where he's moving back to that role. So. Again, they got to keep it up, but moving in the right direction.
Yeah. Then we look at like the difference that DeBoer has made on these new pairs, and kind of like how DeBoer loves to work with pairs on his offense. He doesn't like to,
He's a chemist.
Yeah, he does like to mix it up a bunch, but he likes to keep 2
He
together.
Perfects it. He tries to always perfect it, like his little I don't know. He makes little minor changes and thinks that's gonna. I mean, sometimes it works. I don't know.
Yeah, but last year, like, it was like Hertl and Kane and Couture and Meyer that were always playing together. He switched it up this year for these last 5 games, and it's been working. Timo and Hertl, slotting in Gaudreau there. You got Kane and Couture slotting in LeBanc. Got Thornton and Sorensen where we slot in Marlowe. It's been pretty nice. I have liked to see. I know I originally didn't like the idea of Thornton and Marlowe being on the same line, just because I thought you need a little more speed in there to get stuff done.
Yeah.
Even though Sorensen's fast, I just thought like the average speed of that line wasn't like where it needs to be. I'm starting to like that line a little more.
And Marlowe's still got a fucking step in him. Like he's impressed me with a lot of moves he's made, and I think I texted you like a couple, or we talked about it at least. Like there's been a couple plays where I was like, holy shit, that's like fucking first round pick Patrick Marlowe out there, like 18-year-old moving around. So there's been times where I'm like, okay, he's showing flashes of he's still got it. Whereas Thornton, at times I'm like, he clearly his body does not have it anymore. But luckily, I don't know, that line's worked. I'd actually be down to see Sorensen and LeBanc maybe make a switch. If not for like talent reasons, just as a punishment to LeBanc.
Really?
LeBanc needs to fucking step up more than he is. Luckily, we're paying him nothing, so I guess it's kind of equal.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about at the beginning of the season, this was his year that he needs to step up because he takes this like cheap contract and bets on himself. And I wouldn't say he's playing bad, and honestly, like Sorensen's been super quiet too. And when you go off like back-to-back games where you're scoring like 5-6 goals, like you're not gonna touch the fucking offensive lines. Like you're not, just because you don't want to do any of that. Like they're working, so I don't see him getting switched, but it could be interesting to see. I've always thought Sorensen is like kind of undervalued as a Shark. I mean, obviously he hasn't put up a lot of points, but like the lines he gets put with a lot of the times aren't good. And
that's what I mean. I agree.
And this guy like will get goals, and like, so I've always thought like maybe if he played on a better line, he might be able to produce. I mean, he's been given opportunities in the past to do that, and he hasn't like shown up that big. So I understand, but yeah, it's interesting to see how basically we just switched the chemistry of like Hertl with Kane and put Kane with Couture, and that line's rolling. Timo and Hertl are rolling together, and Thornton, Sorensen are playing well together too. I really like the combinations on the offensive line. The fourth line's just a wash. I feel like I don't know.
And then he went with the
AHL guy every fucking game.
Yeah, and he the other one he did was it's Brendan Dillon and whoever that whichever defenseman we pick out of a hat
Yeah.
each night. But like that, and that line always makes me nervous. But I honestly didn't. I did not notice. Granted, they're not playing nearly as much as the other two defensive lines, but I really didn't notice too much of liability out of that last line, which makes me happy.
Yeah, I think Dylan's become a better defenseman playing with Carlson from last year, where he just learned like, okay, I can't, like I have to play a little more defensively when I play with Erik Karlsson. I think that's translated better because remember how fucking bad he was when he was playing with.
He just tried to throw
name?
his body around all the time, and it was like, great, you just clocked a guy, but now there's a 2-on-1 going down the other side, and you're like, that fucking did nothing for us.
And you got called for
It's
a penalty.
Yeah,
Because you hit him
exactly.
way late.
And it's like, dude, like if like I get he and I think he's one of the most aware Sharks just of his actual ability, like of what he can. Like he knows that he's not a great player, and I think he no, like I'm serious. Like he knows he's not a good skater. He's not he's not a great fucking. But the fact that he knows that he can use that to his advantage and be like, okay, like I'm gonna get my fucking body down there and just get good positioning, and I think he's done a lot better job of that.
Yeah. All right, I kind of want to talk about Gaudreau a little bit. This guy has been slotted in the second line recently, so taken away from Melker.
Yep.
And, dude, this guy's looked like one of the most consistent players the Sharks have seen all year, which is weird. Like, when we talked last, I thought, like, Gaudreau and Kane and Gambrell were, like, our three best players at the moment. And Kane and Gaudreau still look good, but specifically, like, Gaudreau, someone who, like, was just given like fourth line minutes all last year. I think he's been pretty good after his promotion to the second line, and
I thought he was a stereotypical fourth line. Like he didn't look like a guy who I thought was up and coming or anything like that. I thought he was a good fourth, maybe third line guy, and that was about where his peak kind of hit.
Yeah,
but he's showing clearly stepping up. He's also number 2 in the league in penalty minutes, which is pretty crazy. Like, but I mean, I'm fine with that. Like, I'm not even saying that as necessarily a bad thing. Like, he's gotten in scraps, he steps up. Like,
I don't know. Yeah.
He'll make a dumb penalty now and then. But my point is, he's stepping up. I don't know how many of these are majors.
He still has his fourth line attributes. He still
exactly. Like he's still got that
grinded.
with the 10 points. Yeah. So I don't know. Like I've liked him this year.
Yeah, and then I felt like a lot of people. By the time we were doing our last podcast, there's a lot of hate going to Couture as the captain. I know you were like, nah, you don't feel that way. How do you feel now? Obviously, you probably feel pretty similar, but your thoughts on Logan as a captain now?
Well, I think it still goes back to like one. Just overall, regardless of it being Cooch or someone else, I don't like instability at the captain spot. So I'm more of like, even if I disagree with who DeBoer picked as captain at the beginning of the season, you don't like. I don't think it's even worth talking about because it's not a smart move to switch up your captain. That in my opinion, that shows so much insecurity, and that leads to then instability, and I just don't like that. But then number 2, Cooch he deserves to be captain. Like, you look at the qualifications to be a captain. He's been with the team the longest. He's 30 years old. He's still a skilled player. He's fucking got 15 assists, I think, this year. So, I mean, I think the only criticism could maybe be that, I don't know, he's not vocal enough, I guess could maybe be it. But I don't even think that, because he does, in my opinion, he looks like a presence among the guys. Like he seems like that stable guy in between the older side of the locker room with Thornton, Marlowe, and those guys, and then the Timo Myers, LeBank's side of the locker room. So I'm sticking 100% behind Cooch.
Yeah, I've liked him as a captain too, and I feel like a lot of people hated on him when we were losing because Pavelski was such a pivotal captain. Like everyone thought of him as like, Captain America, the number one fucking guy, and like I loved Pavelski as a captain, but I think Couture's doing a fine job. And even though the Sharks went on a losing streak, I thought he got too much heat for that. Like, as a captain, people were saying, like, oh, he needs to step up. He's the captain, like, and trying to pivot a lot of the blame onto him, which I didn't like.
Yeah.
I fucking love his post-game interviews. I think he says great stuff. I think he calls people out when they need to be called out. He
Yep.
calls himself out.
I forgot about
needs,
that. I
he
forgot
needs to
about
be
that.
called out.
Yep.
Yeah, I think he's been good. I've really liked. I thought it's probably way too early to look at how he's been as a captain. The last time we were doing our episode, if you take, we're 20 games into the season about at this point. Like, this is like a decent time to talk about it. But yeah, I've definitely liked him a lot more than I guess the fan sentiment has been around him. But obviously, when the Sharks are doing bad, everyone fucking hates the Sharks. When the Sharks are doing good, no one even talks about any of the problems, but whatever.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that kind of segues us into what I want to talk about next, which is, are the problems we talked about last episode like thrown out the window, or are they just in the background now? Or like, what do you think? We talked a lot about Pierre DeBoer. We talked a lot about Doug Wilson, the inflexibility of this team. Where are we at now with that? We've had 5 games, 5 wins. Where are we at now?
I think it's the same situation. I think these 5 wins extended the period, the time period of the issue, though. It's like because I still, like we said, with the Blackhawks game, with the Wild game, with the Oilers game, and even a little bit with the Ducks game last night, because it was 4-3 last night. So like the fact that all four of the 5 games, I was like getting nervous at the end that we were gonna blow it.
Yeah,
like that's ridiculous. Like there's still clearly a problem there. But I think this would be...
To be fair, we have always thought that. Remember when we were winning against Nashville in the playoffs and we were up like 4-0 one of those games? We're like, holy fuck, we might find a way to lose it. We always try to look for a way to lose it. Like, I feel like for me and you at least, and like a majority of the fans, that's kind of always how it's been. It's like the Sharks are kind of, you never feel like you're never comfortable with the lead that they have.
Okay, but 6-2, blowing 6-2 against the Wild, and blowing 3-0, almost blowing. Sorry, both those games wouldn't blow it, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And then the Blackhawks, it was 3-0 with 2:30 to go left in the game, and they scored 2 goals. Like, I don't know. I guess the Oilers game we won 6-3, so that's I'm maybe exaggerating, but still, like it was 2 goals. In that game we were up 6-1, I think. And then the Ducks last night, it was 4-3, and I thought we were, But again, we won 5-3. So yeah, the Ducks Oilers, I may be exaggerating, but Blackhawks Wild game was not. The problems were still there in those games. So I don't think that 5 games even is enough to ameliorate those issues. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think I think it's funny because like what I've been trying to do is pull it's like some topics that come up between fans on like the Facebook page or whatever forum to talk about a little bit at the end of the show. But there's really not much bad stuff that is said when we go 5-0. And it just brings up the question is like, are we in a good spot now? Can we leave all that behind us, or is it just kind of sitting there lurking until we start doing bad again? And I say that like there's still like really core problems with this team that they need to shore up before, if they want to make it to the playoffs. And we've had a good run, and like hopefully it keeps going. But I don't think I think those problems still need to be in the back of our mind.
Yeah, and I think especially through this, like if you look at it as if like this was a lens and you're kind of clearing up some of the problems, like through these 5 wins, I think one of the most glaring issues was the goaltending.
Yeah,
I think the goaltending was, even with these 5 wins, was clearly a problem. And interesting that we did not play. Dell didn't get a single bit of ice time in these games, which I'm not saying is a bad thing because I don't think Dell is.
That. I honestly like that.
Yeah, I don't think Dell is in any way the cure to our problems. No. But I think the fact that Joner, what did he allow? Fucking 14 goals in 5 games. That's not good enough.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about Joner too. But yeah, we're currently sitting at, after the 5 games, currently sitting at 7th in the division, but we're 5 points behind second place, so we still like
the Yotes.
Yeah, the fucking Yotes. Like, should we be worried, or are these teams in front of us flawed? Where do you think we're going to be like going from here? Are these guys just pretenders that are having a good run at the beginning?
I feel blessed that we're in our division because I think a lot of the good teams in the league are in the other, like the surprise teams of the league, or maybe not surprise, but the dominant ones who have shown up so far are not in our division. I think, like, you look at our division, and I think it's going to end up being one of the lesser divisions. Like, I think we'll have 3 out of our division, and then they'll have 5 out of the Central. But I mean, obviously, it's super early. We're 1/4 through the season, but I'm confident in the aspect of our division.
Yeah, I think that's the overall like community sentiment about our division is just that it's weak because the teams that you think would be strong aren't playing that well right now. So like Vegas and us, we don't have like in Calgary, we don't have like the
Flames,
best
yeah.
records. And then the teams that no one thought would be good have like pretty fucking good records. So it makes our division look sketch. So I get that. But yeah, we can definitely...
I could honestly see the Coyotes winning our division. Like, just looking at it, right? Because I don't think the Oilers are going to win our division. And I think the Flames and the Knights are the only other teams. I mean, we're all like pretty tight right now. So again, it's super early to be saying any of this. But the Coyotes look dank, and they have the best goalie performance-wise. They have the best goalie in the league right now, other than Thomas Greiss, and he's on the other side of the country.
Tuukka Rask?
So, no, not performance-wise, not as good as Darcy Kemper or Thomas Greiss.
All right, I mean, I don't see it, dude.
Tuukka's good, but that's the same point as Greiss. He's on the other side of the country. We're not going to be competing with him for even a conference playoff.
No, I'm just
spot.
saying you're saying like the best goalie, so I'm like,
yeah. But performance-wise, I still stick to it's Darcy Kemper.
I just don't think that team has enough to keep it going.
Yeah.
I like over an 82 game season. I don't see that team.
And see, that's how I feel about the Oilers. I don't think the Oilers have, which is funny because they've got the 2 highest scores in the league. But I mean, yeah, the Stars had the 2 highest scores in the league like 2 years ago, and they didn't even make the playoffs. So so I don't know. Like, it's interesting. Like, Mike Smith is clearly not a good enough team. This isn't an Oilers podcast, so I don't want to get into these teams too much. But like, Mike Smith is not going to be good enough to carry that team. Whereas Darcy Kemper, if he can keep this up, I'm not saying he can. But if he can keep it up, then a goalie is going to be much better at carrying a team than 2 offensive hotshots.
Yeah. No, that's fair. Like, goaltending is fucking huge, and that would be really big for them. But I don't know. I even where they're at now, I see them having trouble making the playoffs. Because if we're saying there's only 3 spots that are going to them because our division's bad, like, and the Central's just better, then it's just, I don't know. It's hard for me.
Again, at this point, it's impossible to speculate.
We'll look back at the Pacific Division like around All-Star break. I feel like that's a better indication of where these teams lie, definitely. But
yeah, I agree. Around halfway through the season too. Like, that's a good
Yeah. All right, let's look into some of our games coming up. We have Detroit, Edmonton, Vegas away, and the Islanders. Detroit 7-12-2, one of the worst teams in the NHL, along with
bad hockey team.
Us, but haven't been on a run like us.
Yeah.
Let's make some predictions because we haven't done it since last time. We were like, we just need to see fucking something from the Sharks.
Yeah, last time was just pure frustration. I think it was, and apparently it was best that we did make predictions on that one. So, you lead it off because I kind of want to look at some Detroit stats so I can rip on them.
Well, I mean, I'm going to say we beat Detroit. I'm going to say that we need to beat Edmonton. Edmonton are coming back a week later, and like, we showed a good performance against them. We need to follow back with the same thing. We need to shut down the Connor McDavid line.
Yep.
And, I feel like they're a one-line team. I don't even have anything to say about Detroit. Like, I just think they fucking suck. But
they're so bad.
So, like, I'm not even gonna go there. I'm just talking about Edmonton now. Like, I think we should win that game. We need to win that game, and we need to shut down McDavid. The Vegas game away, that's gonna be a tough one to call. I just want the Sharks to.
That's a huge game.
Yeah, I mean it's in Vegas, and we're historically bad in that rink. Like, we're just not fucking good winning games there.
Unless we have a 5-minute major called on them.
That's true. And then the Islanders, man. fucking Grice with the best save percentage and
Yeah.
goals against average. Do we lose out big time?
Coming back to the tank too.
Did we lose out big time on that?
No, I mean, what the hell? What the hell were we gonna do? Hold on to that guy? Fucking win.
Just randomly decides to be the best goalie in the NHL. What the fuck?
Yeah, I think he wasn't Grice like one of the guys who was like tweeting about Trump too? Like he was a Trump supporter.
I don't know. I don't really.
Dude, I'm pretty sure he was, because that made me be like, oh my god, this German fuck's like talking about American politics right now.
You gotta love that.
Yeah. So what are you saying?
What am I predicting? Fuck.
Yeah.
I think we go 3-1.
Okay.
But I'm trying to decide who we lose to.
What are you picking between Vegas and New York?
Yeah.
So you're saying we're gonna beat the Oilers and obviously beat Detroit. Sorry, knock on wood.
I say we win the next 3 games and we lose to the Islanders at home.
Okay.
Grice gets his return victory, and that's how I say it goes down. What do you think?
I say we beat Detroit, who have allowed the most goals in the league and are just an absolute dumpster fire. Maybe we can fucking trade with someone later on in the year from them. That would be nice, because they got some nice players. Anthony Ciu's dope.
What the hell are we gonna trade? We have everyone on our fucking team with a no move clause.
I don't know. They're the Red Wings. We'll fucking dupe them into something. I don't know. Okay, yeah, we beat the Red Wings. I'm actually gonna say that we lose to the Oilers in overtime of the shootout, because I think they're a team that comes back and a week later. That's a weird scheduling thing.
I know, right?
I don't like that.
Sucks for them. That's why I want to say that we win.
It sucks for them, but I don't know. It's awkward. It's almost like, I don't know. But yeah, I say they beat us in overtime. I say the Vegas game out of these 4, in my opinion, is the biggest game, just because of the rivalry and the fact that they fucking stomped us the first 2 games of the season, and now it's our first chance back at them.
But they haven't been looking good as of late.
No, they haven't. But regardless, just on a personal level, between the Sharks and Vegas, like, that's a big game.
Yeah.
Thursday night we're on ESPN Plus, so all 4 people that have that will be able to watch that game. And then I think, the Islanders game is fucking tough.
I know.
I say we beat the Islanders. Good. So I'm saying we go 3-0-1. We're going to keep the train rolling, and our one little hiccup's going to be the Oilers.
All right.
Yeah.
So we'll have a look back at that next time. All right. So going into some of our fan sentiment, the first thing we have to look at, or the first comment that I found, is Beauty talking about Jones' save percentage, though. This came after the Minnesota game. Obviously, not to be a downer on the 5-game win streak, but let's take a look at this. Just at least for a second. Hold on.
Yeah. 1
second. Gotta fix something.
Good Lord. He fucking I don't, like I said earlier, I mentioned it earlier, but he's been the glaring problem.
Yeah, you
can't avoid.
In these 5 games, Jones has had an average save percentage of below 900. It's been a .88. Chicago Predators game, those are the only 2 games where he posted above a 900 save percentage. Chicago .95. Minnesota game was bad, .805. And then the Oilers, .875 and then an .857 against the Ducks. But yeah, average still below 900, which I just don't think is going to get the job done.
Absolutely not.
I think this fan has the right mind looking at, like, when you look at a goalie, you always want to take a look at, okay, what's their save percentage? What's their goals against average? If their save percentage is above 900 or around the 900 area, we're looking good. If it's in the 2s for the goals against average, we're looking good. And Jones just isn't there yet. And even in 5 wins, he isn't there yet, and it sucks.
I personally, like, as a goalie too, like, I value save percentage higher than goals against average.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
Just because I think save percentage is a much more personal stat. Mm-hmm. Like, goals against average, I think, is maybe more important, just showing how the team's doing. But save percentage is on you, a lot. And Joner in that Blackhawks game could have had 100%, could have had a fucking shutout. And then in the last 2 minutes, and one of those goals wasn't his fault, but the other one, like, I don't know, he makes me nervous, and the times that he makes me the most nervous is when we get late in games. So I don't know if it's a head case thing or what, but he needs to step it up like 1,000%.
Yeah, I don't know. I would say, like, even these stats aren't always indicative of how he's performing, but like over these 5 wins, should we still be calling for his head, or is it defenseman's fault? I would say it's probably a continuation of both, but
I think it's a little bit of both. Yeah, we can't put it. But I think I don't know about calling for his head, but if we're gonna make the next step and things continue like this, where it's taking 6 goals a game to win,
yeah,
and we do want to win a Stanley Cup, then yeah, like we need to think about making a change, or at least, I don't know, trading for someone to maybe put it, because Dell's not going to put a spark in him. Like,
no,
competing with Dell is not going to make him want to do anything. That's easy as fuck.
Yeah.
So I don't know. So maybe not necessarily even get rid of him, but light a spark, something.
Dell's like literally the worst kind of backup goalie we should have right now, because he's literally just not putting any pressure on Jones, and he's not even like helping Jones in any way. But
I'd rather have Stalock back.
Yeah.
Seriously, like Stalock didn't even Stalock's stats were awful too in that game. I think he let up like 2 or 1/3 of the goals, but his team sucks. Like, that was maybe the worst defense I've seen in the league.
Dude, he was fucking
I felt
pissed.
bad for him.
He was pissed.
Dude, I felt so bad for him. Like, he was just getting ripped. And I like Stalock. He do the fucking baseball bat shit. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. I like Stalock. He's dope.
Yeah, I don't know. I think, like, yeah, Jones has to step up and like play better and like really get these stats up, because they're bad. But I say, like, my hope is that we don't give Dell any of these games coming up. Not because I think
agree.
Dell is like, I just think like Jones is slowly, like, even though his stats aren't like getting better, the team's winning, the environment's getting better. He had a great like game when he had like didn't let a single goal in on a shootout, and like I just think like we've seen Jones play really well, and everyone praised him and stuff like that. Like, we need to start building him up at this point.
Yeah,
like, he's looking better. Let's start building him up. I hope he just keeps playing.
You shouldn't watch this podcast.
No, oh God. But yeah, I think we should keep running him. Hopefully he starts looking better and better, and we don't have to use Dell. Like, the next time we have a back-to-back game is...
I was about to say...
It's at the end of the month, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
against,
end
like,
of the month,
Arizona.
And if you look at our traveling, too, we're barely going anywhere.
Yeah,
I mean,
so just keep using
Vegas.
Jones. Just, if we're winning, just keep using Jones. Don't give a fucking Dell a game, ever. Like, unless we need to, because, like, let's build up his confidence.
Him the Friday night game 2 weeks. That may be fair. Is that fair, Deller?
No, let's give him like a really shitty game. Like, Jones, take this net off. Let Dell just get destroyed. No one play defense. That's
the Kings, man. The Kings are perfect.
No, just like give him away in Vegas and just be like, all right.
Oh,
so we don't fuck. So we don't fuck with Jones's mental.
How about when we travel to Tampa Bay for 3 weeks? He can have that game.
When they have to go to Winnipeg, they're like, it's just you, Dell. Joner's staying at home.
Joner, stay back.
Yeah.
Have a rest. What?
All right, let's go to the next comment that I have laid out here. It says, praying for Ferraro's health. He's a future top defenseman, and I really love watching him play. Yeah, I mean, I don't... Just kind of talk about
I'm
Mario
on board
Ferraro.
with praying for his health, but I don't know about him being a future... it sounds super optimistic, you know what? And that sounds like maybe his fucking little sister making that comment. We can't see who's making that comment, but, I'm in support of it, sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good that, this guy that just comes in the NHL has been looking good, and a lot of people like to see him. I think that's really good for his confidence going forward. Like, even on a team that was like a dumpster fire for a little bit, Ferraro looked good, and like people like to see him. And we're talking like, even if you're on a bad team but you're looking good, and like everyone is like talking highly of you, it still feels pretty good to play the game. Sucks that you're losing, but But yeah, I don't know about him being the future top defenseman. Maybe. I love his play style. Like, he's kind of like a Dan Boyle. And I love that we have these like 2 younger defensemen that look pretty fucking good and look like they should be key aspects to this team that will benefit. But yeah.
And we still have guys down in the. We got a lot of short defense. That's like a theme. Because Shimolevsky's small, and so is Roy, I think.
Oh, like coming up?
Yeah, like
Merkley's a tiny little fuck too.
Yeah, Merkley too. Yeah, like I don't know what it is. Doug and his little short defense. But... Okay, Roy's not that small. He's 6 foot, whatever.
All right. Next comment we have about the team defense, and this came after what game is this? I think this was the Predator game. Said, so what you're saying is when our defense plays defense, we win. Glad to see they're getting together. Go Sharks. And
again, that sounds just
I mean, and like I try to pull these because like, is it really that we're losing these games because our defense just sucks that bad and like this is the only time that they've shown up? Or what do you think about this? Like, is it like only the Predators game where our team played a solid like defense game or defensive game, or is it more like Jones? I know we already kind of talked about that, but
I feel like this is a comment that's like missing the forest for the trees. Like you're calling out one tiny area of it that I don't even think is the larger part of the problem. But I mean, they're right. Like when our defense plays defense, then we win. I mean, it's a pretty rudimentary statement.
Yeah, but it just goes to show how not often that's happened. Like
I agree.
Just, whatever. Not much to say about that one. Going on to our last comment. It's about Dylan Gambrell. It says, if you want Gambrell to develop into the next third-line center when Jumbo retires, flanking him with Radil and Carlson is a horrible way to do it. How about Gregor and Bergman? You know these guys, guys with some speed and energy. What are your thoughts on this?
I know you're a little higher, Gregor, than I am, and Bergman.
Gregor has fucking wheels.
Okay, but Gregor's got 0 fucking points. Like that's not great. Okay, and not to say like if we're comparing him to Lukáš Radil, then yeah, sure. Like I guess I'd rather have Gregor.
But I don't know what I'd rather have.
And Bergman, I don't know. I haven't Bergman at all, so I don't even know. But Melker, I'm fine with being with Gambrell. I don't know. Because Melker's been in the league for a while. He's not a great player, but he's like, he's a fourth line guy. Like he's exactly what I expect Goodrow to be, or expected Goodrow to be. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I don't have a huge problem with that. I do agree that I'm down to get Gambrell like sped up a little bit in his development.
Yeah, and I mainly pulled this because I thought it was interesting. Like I've really liked the way Gambrell's played, and I like wanted to, just at least have some time to discuss like who he should even be paired with. And I don't think Carlson's that bad to put him with, but I've just been like so unimpressed with Lukáš Radil.
Yeah.
He doesn't do anything in the games. Like seriously, he's just there. I mean, I guess you could say that's the same thing about Bergman too. And Gregor, like I would say the same thing about all 3 of those guys. Like those guys that we tend to like flip in and out of playing in the AHL and the NHL, like none of them have really stuck and shown anything.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see one of them do it because I just hate that we keep flipping between these guys, and it's like what I don't like. I don't like any of them. Just pick one and stick with it, so I don't.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Fucking deal with this shit. All right, but yeah, that's pretty much the show. We got some closing thoughts. I just want to ask, like, towards the end here, looking at these games, who do you think needs to step up?
Joner, 100%. I think the biggest issue is, everyone needs to keep doing what they're doing offensively. And then I'd say Joner's number one, and the defense obviously can help because it's not always 100% the goalie's fault. But, Joner, don't watch this episode. I'm saying that at the end, so if on the off chance that Martin Jones somehow watches our...
He's already mentally fucked.
New podcast, he's going to be like, these fucking little kids, they think I suck.
Like, well, he's already fucked at this point if he stayed this long. Like
that's actually true. Yeah, if you're watching this, Joner, like I think things are already heading downhill. maybe start backing up, bud. I don't know. We're gonna send you to San Jose or to our. I don't even know who our ECHL team is, but you're going there.
Any final thoughts about the Sharks? Anything else?
No, I mean,
I agreed with you too. By the way, I think Jonas is the only thing that needs to step up, and it'll just do so much for the morale of the team. But yeah.
No, I mean he's the last missing key, and we gotta keep up playing like we're playing, and feed off this 5-game win streak, and get some confidence in ourselves. I mean, I think we already have it, and we have a great chance against Detroit to build it up even more. So
yeah, I agree. All right, that'll do it for episode 4 of Tank Talk. If you stayed this long, check us out on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or whatever other podcast thing, because we're on like 8 of them now.
We made it to Apple.
Yeah, they actually accepted us, and then you can check us out on YouTube, and I don't really have much else to say. Pretty positive episode though, I feel like. Yeah, we shit on Jonah a lot, but a lot of positives. It was productive. So
we managed to not shit on EK that much at all.
Yeah, I kind of want to avoid that because I feel like it's overdone, but we did a little bit. A tasteful amount. Tasteful.
He deserves it. He deserves it. Yeah. All right.
All right. So that'll do it.